Now, Pennies for Hitler book review. The book that I'm reviewing is Pennies for Hitler. This book was firstly published in 2012 by HarperCollins. Jackie French is a full-time writer and wombat negotiator. She has made 9 different genres of books like science, history, and others. She writes books for all ages to read. This book is beside the best-selling book, Hitler's Daughter, which is very famous and has different parts which might amaze you. Jackie is regarded as Australia's most popular children's author, and she also has lots of columns in the print media. Hitler's Daughter has won the 2000 CBC Book of the Year for young readers. She also won both International, National, and the Children's Choice Award. The story starts in Alphen, Germany, in 1939. He goes across the globe to find out the events that are happening. People help him, but is it really enough for him, or can he escape the abhorrence that is expanding in the world? His name is George Marx. He started his journey at Adolf Hitler School in Germany, which is the same city as Alphen. When they measured his head, he had the perfect Aryan-shaped head. But when he heard the news that Hitler was indoctrinated towards Jews because they would eat babies after they were born, he had long journeys against him where he falls into a pit of troubles, which made him anxiously worried about what's happening in the real world. Will George be able to cut far away from his own house, or will he survive the loneliness? He gets to England after a few of his birthdays pass. It was time to celebrate his worst birthday of his life. The war started escalating, and children had to evacuate the country. George gets on a boat, but which country is he going to? After going across 3 countries and finding the memories from the places that he crossed, he heads to Australia and meets a foster family who look like elderly people, but he doesn't know them, their names or their ages. He will have to find out for himself once he gets off the boat with his suitcase. George went to Alphen, Germany, where he had to leave because the war was escalating, but it was slowly expanding. So he went on to the train station where he was getting transported to England, but he had to go through France to reach England. They passed France and went to England, but also the conflict happened there, so he had to get on a boat to go somewhere else, and that place is Australia. It takes a few months to get there, but once he gets there, he will be safe. But will it be safe for him to stay, or will he have to move to another country? But will he have to move to another country? He also meets a foster family who look elderly, very elderly, but looks young, and they live in Bellagong. But they have to travel a few miles or kilometers to get there on the train. Another train, Mr. Peaslake sends a poem through to Sydney, Melbourne after it's Bellagong, which is a little town where Mr. and Mrs. Peaslake lives. George had the perfect Aryan head when he was in Germany, and he also had hatred against his own country when he found that Germany was teamed up with Italy and took a lot of the countries and were heading for England next. George was important because of his bravery. When crossing the sea with people he didn't know, Aunt Miriam showed hopefulness when trying to send George to Australia, and also trying to find him when the conflict intensified. Aunt Miriam was also brave and loving, even though she didn't know how to take care of children. Mutti showed faithfulness, hope, and emotionless while sending George in a suitcase to England to keep him safe. She was also very loyal to George, even though he was over in England. George's dad was very loyal to George. He always took care of him every night. He sometimes read poems for him, or a book in German after he would translate it into English, maybe for him to understand, so in the future that he could find a job in the USA when the conflict ended, England or Australia. Papa was as loyal as a dog in the book because he would always make George laugh whenever he's in a bad mood in the book and etc. I think the lights of the book are the poetic devices when Jackie Finch punches them into important parts of the book. Also when she hints in the beginning of the story that all is not atrocious. There is also a sense of eeriness and abhorrence that shall strike the story. I like how all the main and side characters show bravery to do stuff every time every time they face inflexible challenges like sending their family to another country or town. Also, the dislike is when the poem goes really long in the book on page 147 to 157, whereas you could mention an important and an interesting part that will pull the reader to keep reading it. It's also to get really interested in this book, and then you'll maybe read it to other people and tell them that to read it. Tell them about other books that the author is selling and the awards that the author has got recently. The unique theme of the quote of this book is that how hatred is contagious, but it also about how kindness and love and compassion are all contagious too. There are also different parts in the story where they show the characteristics in a world where there are still destroyers like the Nazis. There are also loving and caring people like the Peaslake family, and indomitable and extraordinary friends like Mud. I would recommend this book to 10 or 11-year-olds because it has very bad stuff in it that little kids will be afraid about. The big kids know about fatigue and etc. and death. Fatigue means death. But don't think kids would like to read that. I would recommend this to 10 to 11 year olds. She hinted in the beginning that something was going to happen in the book, and maybe it might be a bad thing, or it might be a good thing.